Sam Seder.
The destiny of America is always safer in the hands of the people than in the conference rooms of any elite.
Sam Seder.
They are unanimous in their hate for me, and I welcome their hatred.
We must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex.
The Majority Report with Sam Seder.
And I get the feeling you've been cheated.
It is Wednesday, November 8th, 2023. My name is Sam Seder. This is the five-time award-winning Majority Report. We are broadcasting live steps from the industrially ravaged Gowanus Canal in the heartland of America, downtown Brooklyn, USA. On the program today, Aaron Kleinman, Director of Research for the States Project at Future Now. On a very good election day for Democrats yesterday, and really more so for abortion rights. Then Brittany Dorris, a fifth grade teacher in Portland, Oregon, on the picket lines as Portland teachers start their fourth or fifth day, sixth day of a strike there. Also on the program today, as I mentioned, Ohio votes resoundingly for a constitutional right to abortion and to legal weed. Pennsylvania elects a Democrat to the Supreme Court, making a 5-2 majority in that very keyest of key swing states. The Virginia Senate stays Democrat. The Virginia House flips to Democrat as Glenn Youngkin's rising star becomes a MAGA supernova. Moms for Liberty, widely rejected across Iowa. Bashir crushes in Kentucky on the wave of abortion rights. Rashida Tlaib censured for being Palestinian while in Congress. The G7 calls for a humanitarian pause as Palestinian civilians continue to die. U.S. diplomats slam U.S.-Israel policy. Ivanka Trump found a babysitter and is on the witness stand today in New York. And a 4-second preview of tonight's debate. All that and more on today's Majority Report.
I got your 4-second preview. No Doug Burgum. ...
There you go. Matt is back, folks. We've got a lot of hankies in the office. Matt,
pretty sure it was just allergies and a little bit of hangover for me yesterday.
Emma is off. Therefore, I am contractually allowed to say today is Hump Day, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the program. Really a good news yesterday. The only bad news, and I'll start off with it, from my perspective. There may be other races that, but in terms of like anything that I would headline that I find really a bummer is the Pine Tree Power Initiative in Maine failed. They were outspent. This was again to have the state of Maine operate its own power delivery. And they were outspent. I don't even know if you can calculate like double digits to one by these power companies. It really is something that we need in this country. There is no reason for us to have these middlemen in particularly, the rationalization is there. It is when we regulate these companies so heavily and they have no competition, there couldn't be a better indication of something that this is what the state or the country should be doing.
And have done before.
And have done, of course. Anywhere where there's a monopoly or has been for an extended period of time, I know that like in some places are opening up with fiber versus cable. It is a good indication that like this is something that obviously you don't need competition for. I'm not sure in which areas you need competition, but this is clearly, we don't even need to do a hypothetical, but that's the only dark spot on things, as it were. And in the meantime, we had some very good news across the board in terms of, we don't know exactly in terms of the numbers. We'll get more data as we go in the coming days and weeks in terms of like turnout and how it applies in a broad sense. But broadly speaking, people seemed very energized by one issue in particular. And so much so that even Sean Hannity realizes it.
And this is what happens when you go for 50 years, an unelected group of Supreme Court justices take this vitally important issue out of voters' hands and make the, rule by fiat in Washington. And then when we, thankfully get it returned to the states and returned to voters, it's a difficult issue, and we're working through it. This is the third election. It's going to be difficult, and it's going to be awkward, and everybody's kind of got to try to find their voice on it. Democrats demagogue the issue very effectively.
They're trying to scare, Democrats are trying to scare women into thinking Republicans don't want abortion legal under any circumstances. And I go back to Pennsylvania 2022. The Republican candidate for governor, if I remember correctly, no exceptions for rape, incest, or the mother's life, and lost to a non-incumbent gubernatorial candidate, Democratic candidate, by a margin.
Pause it for 1 second. I just want to see if I just understand what Sean Hannity's saying. Democrats want people to believe that Republicans don't want to allow abortions in any circumstance, and then he immediately pivots to talk about a Republican candidate who did not want to allow abortions in any circumstance. I mean, it is the case that Republicans don't want abortions to exist in any circumstance. In fact, we talked about yesterday how the speaker of the Republican Speaker of the House voted against voted against birth control. And so it goes further than that. Now, it's true that in certain circumstances, they try and finesse this to see if there's some magic formula where they can take away an individual right from half of the population, roughly, and and arguably everyone, right? I mean, because couples often make this decision together, but they finesse it so that they can take away parts of that right. And now they're whining because their position is completely unpopular with the American people. And I love how it was 50 years of fiat, and then it was, it's no longer fiat. That you can overturn a 50-year precedent. I mean, if you want to talk about something that is definition of fiat, it is a judiciary that has no respect for settled precedent. But continue.
And I go back to Pennsylvania 2022. The Republican candidate for governor, if I remember correctly, no exceptions for rape, incest, or the mother's life, and lost to a non-incumbent gubernatorial candidate, Democratic candidate, by a margin that was not seen since the 1940s. So I have to believe that is an indication that the women in America, suburban moms, want it probably legal and rare and probably earlier than, at the point of viability.
Well, I mean, I think just about everybody believes that it should be slightly earlier than the point of viability. I mean, I think that's in fact what the standing law was.
I think the doctors are on that.
But the Republicans are recognizing they have a problem to a certain extent. They also have a problem with their insistence that normal people have a problem with the existence of trans people. We will get into that more. The millions of dollars that Republicans seem hell-bent on trying to prove that the American public is afraid or has an issue with, or whatever it is, with trans people. We'll also say that on a local level, in terms of school boards and this and that, people tend to not want things like history to be banned, books to be banned, pride flags to be banned. So Moms of Liberty, also big losers yesterday. We'll go through all of this in part with Aaron Kleinman, and then over the course of the rest of the program, and then I would imagine over the course of the next couple of days. But first, oh God, I can't believe it. We're doing the debate coverage tonight. It is the perfect opportunity, and I've got 5 bottles sitting in my apartment right now of Z-Biotics, because when we cover the Republican debates, we tend to have a couple of drinks. I mean, not so many that we're, fall down. We drink, I think we drink responsibly. But the beauty of Z-Biotics is it is a pre-alcohol probiotic, the world's first genetically engineered probiotic, incidentally. And what it basically does is it gets rid of rough mornings the night after you do a little bit of drinking. And here's how it works. Before you drink a bottle of the Z-Biotics, a little tiny, tiny bottle. And then you drink responsibly, try and get a good night's sleep. And where normally when you drink, what gives you a tough next day is a byproduct that is a toxic byproduct that gets developed in your gut after you drink. So it's this byproduct and not dehydration that leaves you feeling lousy the next day. Z-Biotics pre-alcohol probiotic produces an enzyme, and it breaks this byproduct down in your gut. It's sort of designed to act like your liver, but in your gut where you need it the most. So you drink Z-Biotics before drinking. I don't know how I'm going to do this. Unless maybe Emma has some at home and she can bring some in, and I will trade her a bottle that I have at home. But you drink it before you drink alcohol. Drink responsibly, get a good night's sleep, and then the next morning you could do, let's say, a podcast, or you could do your exercises, or you could do your errands. Go to zbiotics.com/majority. Get 15% off your first order when you use majority at checkout. I've used this in multiple circumstances. My biggest problem is that sometimes I forget. But it's great. You can also sign up for a subscription using my code so you can stay prepared no matter the time or the occasion. That's very helpful so you don't run out. Z-Biotics is backed with a 100% money-back guarantee. So if you're unsatisfied for any reason, they'll refund your money, no questions asked. Remember, head to zbiotics.com/majority. Use the code majority at checkout for 15% off. Thanks, Z-Biotic, for sponsoring this episode and for making several episodes in the past possible. because I was able to rebound the next morning. All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, Aaron Kleinman. We are back. Sam Seder on the Majority Report. Emma is off for the day. Joining us now, Aaron Kleinman, Director of Research for the States Project at Future Now, from a hidden location where we are holding him hostage, as you can see. Aaron, welcome back to the show.
If people want to know what books I'm reading, they can just ask me. You know, that's
It's a good thing that we don't have that. What is that? Like that Zoom Raider? What was there was
Room Raider?
Room Raider.
The Zoom Raider guy. You know that guy is a big old fraud.
Well, I don't know what that means. Like, I mean, well, how could that be? What does that mean?
This guy Claude Taylor. He was like he changed the toner at the Clinton White House or something. And he parlayed that into a career scamming people online, saying that he's going to give money to candidates and not.
Oh, geez, really? I had no idea about that.
Yeah.
Oh, all right. I thought you were saying he was a fraud when it came to room rating, and I'm like,
well,
do you really need a degree for that? Or
yeah.
Okay. All right. So we're all in a good mood today in terms of that yesterday's election. There's a lot of other stuff that's happening in the world for that give us reasons not to be in a particularly good mood, but let's try and stay in this place for a moment. Big night last night. Okay, let's just start with this. We can go through, I mean, in Kentucky, Bashir gets reelected. In Ohio, abortion enshrined into the Constitution. Virginia, Democrats actually pick up a house. Pennsylvania, pick up a seat on the Supreme Court, lock it in, 5-2. Virginia, like I say, really helpful. And I mean, there's more. What was the biggest surprise? Let's start with that for you. What was the biggest surprise of the night?
The biggest surprise for me was honestly how it kind of went how I thought it would. They're actually like, I'm like, it never kind of goes the way that I think it will, but going in, we were pretty confident that because we were mostly focused on Virginia, we were pretty confident that we would, win the legislature there, but that would be close. And if you look at the results in the Senate, the tipping point seat for control of the Senate, which right now we have a 1-seat majority there, it was won by about 2,000 votes. In the House, the tipping point control for the House was about 800 votes. Very, very close. But the good news is right now we have enough seats to not only stop the right wing in Virginia, but actually, start passing some laws that could really help the people of that state.
And my understanding too, was this in Virginia? I think it was that there was some primaries in some Democratic seats that we sort of like upgraded. Was it Virginia I'm thinking of now?
Yeah, no. In Virginia, you had a totally new legislative maps because they had the odd year elections and the census data weren't ready for the 2021 election. And so just because you had like a lot of new maps, a lot of incumbents were on new turf, And so it's actually a very young Senate that's coming in. I think only like half of the majority caucus has like been in the Senate before. So there's a lot of new blood coming in Virginia, which is exciting because, now that we have majorities in both chambers, again, we can start passing some really good laws around, clean air, protecting democracy, protecting choice. You have a right-wing governor, but he said that he's a moderate, and he wears these vests that make people think he's a moderate. And now he can actually take a step beyond just vest wearing, and he can actually sign some laws that are very popular. And show people, wow, I want to pass all these. I'm a Republican, but I'm going to sign all these popular bills that the General Assembly is sending to me. So I'm more than just a vest. I'm a real moderate. Maybe he can do that. Let's get it done.
Aaron, I just want to note for folks who are not familiar with you, that there's a lot of sarcasm in your voice.
Well, there are some things, like lowering the cost of prescription drugs. 75% of people support this stuff. And
let's talk about Youngkin since we're at Virginia, okay? Because we've been told that Youngkin is the sort of like the prototype of the post-Trump Republican, where, he's offering a 15-week ban on abortions, which of course is still like an infringement upon people's on a right that people had for 50 years in this country. He has been going around talking about CRT and trans people. He dumped $500,000 of his campaign war chest into the race where Danica Rome became Virginia's first, and she had been, I think, Virginia's first transgender assembly member, and is now Virginia's first transgender senator, state senator, and that race didn't even seem to be terribly competitive. You'd have a better sense of that than I. But I mean, this guy embodies all of the MAGA stuff without calling himself MAGA. And now he's going to have to he's going to have to get rid of the vest.
Well, actually, the Danica Rome race, at the last minute they came in and ran a pretty vulgar, gutter, anti-trans campaign against her. It ended up being a closer race than we anticipated. It actually was the tipping point seat for Senate control. I think right now, and again, votes are still coming in Virginia. None of the numbers are final yet. I think she's up by around 3-4% right now. And that was actually the closest race that Democrats are ahead in right now. But thankfully, again, and, there were a lot of people there, including groups like us, in that district. We knew that they would make a run at her. And, thankfully, we were able to kind of help, marshal some resources and make sure that she kind of had a firewall in place. We knew that at the last minute, maybe they would try something like this. And she ended up winning. And, the voters of Virginia rejected that 15-week abortion ban that he was saying was a moderate compromise. And so, he knows now that's not what people want. Maybe now he can get to work actually, trying to sign bills passed by the legislature that are very popular and show people that, hey, maybe, to me, that seems pretty moderate to me.
Okay. But do you think he's going to do that? Or do you think, because if he does that, he's done with politics after Virginia, unless he just wants to go into lobbying or something?
Well, I don't know. I keep hearing that Republicans are going to be a working class, cross-racial coalition after this. And what better way to show that than by signing some popular laws? The voters have spoken. That's what they want. So we should listen to the voters.
All right, fair enough. I really appreciate your hopeful perspective on Glenn Youngkin's future. All right, let's go to Ohio, obviously, where, this is the amazing thing. Abortion plays a big role in Ohio tonight. It plays a big role in Kentucky. It plays a big role in Virginia. It plays a big role in Pennsylvania. It may have played big roles in other places around the country as well. But these were big, sort of high profile type of races. Let's talk about Kentucky. Bashir, I heard a clip on the AP News. I listened to that in the morning, and it was Bashir in Kentucky, and he gets up there and he says, "And now we're going to fully fund education and our educators in this country." And then I heard a clip of Reeves in Mississippi, and his clip was, "They said I couldn't do it, and I did it," or something like that. I mean, like there is that juxtaposition where you have Democrats who are running on policies and Republicans who are running against self-agreement or on self-agreement was stark. But tell us about Kentucky.
Yeah, and again, Kentucky, you can see where a governor who's running on really, not just, abortion did play a big role in that race. He had some pretty stark ads kind of showing kind of just how extreme his opponent was. But also, again, running on quality of life, running on improving people's lives, stuff that makes a difference in people's lives. That's the winning combo. And a Democrat winning the governorship in a state like Kentucky shows you, Bashir certainly has, a family name and political talents that are difficult for a lot of people there to replicate, but it shows you that you can win if you focus on those things. And again, standing up for the right to choose as well. So yeah, and I think he won by even a bit more than anticipated as well. So it was a, pretty solid victory there, especially because a lot of people thought he only won in 2019 because he was running against someone who pretty much alienated everyone in the state. But he showed that, if you're willing to kind of just try to govern with people's lives in mind, you can keep winning elections.
Let's talk about Pennsylvania. This is also a big deal, and this is going to be a big deal. I mean, put it in context to us. Is this going to make a difference in terms of like the House has already been, the state Supreme Court has already sort of like fixed the massive gerrymandering in the House.
Yeah.
Are we ever going to see it in the state with the state the state House?
Well, I mean, again, we were one of the few national groups in 2022 who was in Pennsylvania in a big way trying to flip it. And, we now hold the Pennsylvania House by one seat. So that helps. And, next up, we have to try to flip the state Senate, which is a little more daunting. But yeah, as you noted, in Pennsylvania, the state Supreme Court has a big say in redistricting, especially state legislative redistricting. So actually in 2025, there will be 3 Democratic seats up for retention. And so in 2025, if Democrats can hold those 3 seats, or maybe only 2 of those 3, but ideally all 3, they could actually pretty much ensure that they would have a Supreme Court that would stand for fair districts in the next redistricting round. So winning the race last night too was huge to help set that up as well. So that was really good. Again, not just on choice, but also on just democracy. Huge.
Big issue there. And all right, let's go to Ohio. I mean, this is we've been talking about this for quite some time, and we saw a preview of this over the summer, I guess it was, on question 1 at that time, which was, is it legit for Ohio to have a referendum on the Constitution that involves, a simple majority? And that resoundingly was maintained. Give us a sense of like the implications of this. I mean, is there going to be any implications beyond this? Obviously, it's so weird. You got a state that enshrines constitutional right to abortion and to recreational marijuana and is going to vote for a Republican presidential candidate.
I mean, I think that shows that there's work to be done, and kind of, all those voters who are voting for, again, to keep, abortion legal in the state of Ohio should be gettable, and they're not getting all of them. And so that shows, hey, there's work to be done. And, I think a lot of what we do is making sure that we can meet voters, that state legislative candidates can meet voters where they are. And so that's why we try to, help fund tactics that have been proven to work. Things like, actually going door to door, things like making sure that your ads are tested. And so just kind of to try to improve these margins, because in Virginia, it had been, for decades, Democrats had never done better than the previous gubernatorial nominee in state legislative elections. We were fighting history there.
Explain that
Virginia,
dynamic.
So in Virginia, you have the gubernatorial election is kind of the year after the presidential, and then the state legislative is the year before the presidential. So, and for the past, few decades, Democrats had never done better than their previous gubernatorial nominee in state legislative election. So we were fighting history there just because it's a relatively conservative electorate that comes out in odd years. And so, when you're thinking about, well, how do you counteract that? There are things that have been proven to work. And so I think if you look at the results in a state like Ohio, it's, hey, the people are with you on the issues, and you need to figure out how to meet them where they are, how to win them over to you. And, that's what we're trying to do. And I think it's possible. So it just, you see your issues doing well, and it's like, that's just proof that you got to keep fighting.
What's your sense? I don't know how much you paid attention to what was going on in Iowa when it comes from Moms for Liberty. As far as I can tell, there were 13 Moms for Liberty endorsed candidates in Iowa in the 2023 school board races. Not all of them, obviously, yesterday. Out of 13, only one won in a school district, and it was a tiny school district with fewer than 1,000 students. What is that telling you in terms about like this culture war that the Republicans insist should be waged? And I think like some of the sort of like centrist popularists out there who say like, I don't know, maybe we should, abandon the idea of rights for trans people, or the idea of, studying history and the Civil War in school.
So, Sam, you and I, we both have kids. And so I think you and I both understand that schools are amazing. They're a place you send your kid there, you can do your job, you get back from your job, your kid gets home from school, they're smarter. It's like, it's a miracle. And I think parents across the country realize, oh my God, schools, they're amazing. I want my kid to have good schools. And Moms for Liberty is basically running on a platform of, we hate schools. And so I don't think that's a very good, I think that parents by and large are, you certainly want your schools to be good, and maybe you want them to be better. But if you have kind of a platform that is inherently antagonistic toward the role of public education in society, people are not going to like it. So, across the country, candidates, should be talking about how they want kids to be able to go to good public schools. And we can saw that in Iowa. We saw it in Pennsylvania, that far right culture war. Parents can tell when you're just kind of like, when you're not really interested in the quality of schools and you're just interested in fighting nonsense culture war, and they're going to reject it. So let that be known. It worked.
And we saw a similar thing too in it seems to me in Virginia, that same dynamic, right? Wasn't it like Justice Scalia's daughter was running?
She lost the school board race. And they tried to, the far right tried to make school culture war thing a wedge issue in the Northern Virginia suburbs to win legislative seats, and didn't work. They lost the races where they tried to make that a big issue. The bottom line is people like public schools. They want them to be good. If they don't trust you to support public schools and make them good, then they'll throw you out. And running on banning books, running on singling out, children who, singling out trans children, that's not showing parents you care about schools. It shows them that you care about kids as political footballs. They're going to reject that.
Let's talk New Jersey. There was some surprises in New Jersey. I mean, I'm just trying to get a sense of like, what we can glean from this going forward outside of it being like, broadly speaking, just a good night for Democrats.
Well, one notable thing out of New Jersey is that candidates in the Philadelphia media, Philadelphia TV market did better than candidates in the New York TV market. And this is the same dynamic that we saw in 2022, when candidates in the New York media market did did significantly worse than candidates in other media markets. And I think a lot of it comes from Eric Adams, frankly, talking about how awful New York is. And people who see news coverage of New York are just turning, and it remains an issue that needs to be fixed, because if you look at 2024, there are a lot of important, congressional and legislative districts in the New York media market that need to be won. So I think something needs to get done, something needs to change, because that is, what's going on. And if you look at the Republican successes from last night, there aren't that many, but in Long Island, they did well. And I think it remains an issue.
So how does one deal with that? Because it feels like, I mean, is New York one of those states that's going to have a constitutional amendment for abortion rights?
I'm not sure where they are on that, to tell you the truth, but we'll see. I mean, I think in general, I think we have to be mindful of the fact that the mayor is a bit of a problem right now.
I mean, I'm mindful of it. What do I do about it?
I'm not really sure what else to do about it. I think you just kind of hope that the SDNY Public Integrity Unit does their job.
Exactly. How many investigations can be going on around Eric Adams without? I mean, the only thing it seems to have done is cut his Turkish film career short. That's the only thing. We played a clip of him in a Turkish film the other day. And I guess on some level, my hope is that the abortion issue becomes an issue in the context of New York, because that seems to drive turnout across the country, regardless of what the scenario is. Obviously, it's less pressing in New York because no one ever anticipates a threat to the right for a person to choose to have an abortion in this state. But it would be a good reminder, I guess. Let's just lastly, do we have any sense of turnout demographics? Because one of the things that we've seen, at least in the polling with Biden, is that he has lost a lot of support from African Americans. Whether one believes that or not, the question becomes have African Americans suddenly decided, Black people decided that the Republican Party is sort of it's better to vote for them in terms of their interests, to the extent that those interests diverge from anybody else's interests. But do we have a sense?
So it's still really early, and we haven't done the deep dive there. But from looking at the precinct data from last night in Virginia, there were not issues with Black. I think Democrats got good numbers from Black voters overall from my initial cut at it. And again, we're still counting votes, so it's even hard to say beyond that. But this wasn't a result you would expect if you told me that Black voters weren't turning out, or Black voters were voting Republican in higher numbers than before. I didn't see anything suggesting that last night, but we're waiting on all the results to come in, so we might have a better idea in a few months. But
same question with youth. I saw some numbers, I don't know how verified they were, that college students in Pennsylvania came out voting in double the rate that they had a couple of years ago.
So in Virginia, actually, there were a couple of districts with big colleges in them. And we saw, so in Virginia, the way it works is if you're not registered, you can actually register on that day at basically the campus polling place, and you cast a provisional ballot, and then they have to verify it. Those haven't been counted yet, so we're waiting on it. But we looking at some of the turnout there, it does seem like there was pretty decent turnout on college campuses, and that's really all because of just the way demographics work. That's kind of the best we can do for figuring out how young voters did at this point. But young voters certainly seem to come out in Virginia. I don't know the extent of the numbers. We'll have a better idea in a little while. But again, it wasn't a result that you would get if youth turnout had collapsed.
Interesting. Well, I guess we'll see. My daughter sent me a picture of her "I voted" sticker. It's not a great sort of data point, because it's my daughter, I guess, and she knows that I would be upset if she
has a high turnout score, I'm guessing.
She has a high turnout score for voting, but I don't know. It's rather encouraging. Aaron Kleinman, anything else that you think we should note?
Just note those margins in Virginia that we won by are slim. It's an exciting result, but we got, no letting up here. In 2022, we won very slim margins in states like Michigan, Minnesota, Pennsylvania. In 2024, we got to defend those. In 2024, we got to try to flip Arizona too. We got to be looking for opportunities across the country, but it's looking like it's going to be close again. So I'm excited. I can take a little breather, but 2024 is going to be a big battle, and we're going to start getting ready for it today.
Well, Aaron Kleinman, Director of Research at the States Project of Future Now. I know you guys are doing great work, and I know that every penny that gets donated to you guys does not go into office furniture or or accoutrements. It all goes into the work that you're doing. I think that's pretty obvious.
This is a Red Bear shirt, folks. It all goes out the door.
Where do you get a chair that squeaks like that? Is there some place that you go to buy them?
The dump. I got
a quacking chair.
Is there something Is there like some place in the mall called Squeaks or something like that?
Chicken coop behind you.
Okay. Well, really appreciate you coming on.
All my stuff comes from the dump because I'm so focused on getting all this money out to the candidates where it can make the biggest difference.
All right, fantastic. Folks can find, we'll put a link to the States Project of Future Now in our podcast and YouTube description. Always a pleasure, Aaron. Thanks.
All right, thanks for having me, Sam.
All right, bye-bye. All right, folks, quick break, and we'll be back with Brittany Dorris. It's a 5th grade teacher in Portland, Oregon. They're on strike there. We'll find out why. We are back. Sam Seder on the Majority Report. Joining me now, Brittany Dorris. She's a 5th grade teacher in Portland, Oregon. Brittany, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Glad to be here.
So, Brittany, give me a sense. You guys are now on the 5th day of the strike. We were both just trying to figure out how many people are striking?
Of our union membership is 4,500 people, and that's the teachers. And then we're also being joined by hundreds of community members, families. The kids are coming out and joining us on the line. It's a big deal. It feels massive.
And what are the big bones of contention here?
The big ones that we're struggling to bargain over are things like safe classrooms free of rodents and mold. Shocking. We are fighting for smaller class sizes. I currently have a class of 34 5th graders.
Wow.
And we are struggling. We're fighting for pay compensation that keeps up with inflation. Portland is the 12th most expensive city in the nation and the 2nd most expensive city for new teachers. And we want to keep up with this crazy inflation and be able to live in the city where we teach, which is a novel idea. And And we're fighting for support for our students with special needs and disabilities and neurodivergence, because they are dramatically underserved with a skeletal support staff right now. So we're trying to get more adults to support the kids that we have and the issues that they're dealing with.
And so you guys are you out of contract now? I mean, the contract is expired, and how long has it been expired for, and how long was that contract in effect?
Yeah, so we negotiate 3-year contracts, and this entire academic year we've been working without a contract. We've been attempting to bargain this new contract for over a year. Our bargaining team has been hard at work and seeing very little movement from district management. So all year we've been working without a contract so far.
And what is your parent union, and which union are you affiliated with?
Yeah, so I'm a member of Portland Association of Teachers, which is nested under Oregon Education Association, which is nested under the National Education Association, NEA.
Okay. And because I feel like the NEA has gotten a little bit more aggressive in the past couple of years, really since the Red State Revolution, rebellion, I should say. Where you had teachers going out there and even the ones who aren't unionized, in most instances, going out there and striking and seeing returns on that.
Yeah, we've been in communication with a lot of other locals around the nation, and this is not a moment, it's a movement. We are seeing educators rise up throughout the country, especially after pandemic times, revealing the discrepancies and the inequities, and that teachers and educators won't stand for it anymore. Our kids can't wait. And it's hit Oregon. We're out here. Smaller unions around us have been striking recently. Other unions are watching how this goes for us, taking a note to see if they're going to be able to strike as well. And some of the other unions in Portland that work within our schools are also entering mediation in their contract bargaining. Our PFSP, that's our paraeducators and our custodial staff, our nutrition workers, they're all also nearing the point of strike, as their bargaining is not happening in good faith either.
Talk to me about the relationship with the parents and the community, because this is always, one of we've been tracking these teacher strikes, I think, personally since Chicago, and the Chicago teacher strike in, I think it was 2011, 2012. We've talked about that with Jane McAlevey, and it was one of the resurgence of a social justice unionism on some respect, where teachers in particular, and I find nurses are also situated this way, where their set of issues, and you mentioned this, it's really like you talk about 35 students in a class, in a fifth grade class. I have a fifth grader myself. The idea of 35 students in one class, it's difficult for you, but it's the kids who pay. And it's ultimately the parents and the families who pay. I mean, when you send your kid to school and they come back and they say, we had a rat in our classroom, this is an issue for the parents and for the kids and for the community. Tell me how the union has gone about to sort of develop and nurture those relationships.
Yeah, I feel very blessed here in Portland. We've got an incredibly supportive family community. And a lot of our teachers are parents in our district themselves. And the union has been in partnership with the local PTAs at all of our schools. We've been communicating pretty openly with parents since pandemic times of these are the ways that we're struggling to support your kid. And you don't want to admit where you're falling behind or where you're lacking. And it's not that teachers aren't trying to do an incredible job, but sharing authentically that we do not have enough resources and you are seeing it firsthand for your student. And our parents are righteously joining our fight for their students, and the students are joining. It's so beautiful to listen to the kids on the line with their side. They see it firsthand. The kids are all right in that they see it and they're fighting. The kids are not all right in the gutting of public education for the last 2 decades. And we are seeing the ramifications of that on the kids, on their mental health, on their academics. Yeah, and our families are with us.
And I imagine hopefully you guys will prevail in this, but I imagine that will be pretty empowering too for the kids. I mean, it occurs to me like, my union is on strike as well, the SAG-AFTRA, and I've debated about taking my son out of school just to go down to the picket lines. But, so that he would get a taste of that. It's got to be, I think, also an opportunity for a learning experience, even on the lines with the kids.
Right. We teach our students to have a voice in what's going on in their community, to be active in making change. We teach them to be change makers, and they are seeing that firsthand. We are modeling a lesson in real life right now, and they are joining us right now outside this house. A handful of our students are on our picket line. It's a space of joy and righteous rage, well-placed rage. They are living in those sardine can classrooms. One of my students is out there with a chant about students are not sardines. Don't you know what that means? And they are feeling it directly, and they are modeling it for us. We should take a lesson from the youth. There was a student-centered march yesterday, a rally here in Portland, and it was just astonishing to see the youth leading the change and the charge. And we're just their amplifiers. We, the staff, are just here to put the megaphone to their mouth and let them be heard.
And just to be clear, we're talking teachers K through 12, all on strike, high schools, junior highs, and what's being done by the city to provide for students who rely on things like, are schools closed down or are kids going in?
Right.
But
our
go ahead.
Our buildings are shut down. There's no way to find and provide enough subs or scab workers to cover this large of a movement. But our union and our district are still providing essential services for our students. There are food pickups, very similar to the structures and supports we saw when we had to close schools in 2020 and 2019. So students are able to receive food, and there is some level of instruction being attempted by our paraeducators. There's some contention about that, families refusing to accept those services as it is struck work. But yeah, students have access to mental health care and the health centers and food, and all kinds of local support networks have been providing childcare for families that need to maintain a work schedule, and the community is really coming together to take care of its own. And we are in some ways fortunately kind of good at that now, because we all had to figure that out a few years ago. And so the parent community seems patient and supportive, and I think attempts at scaring the families from district management have been ineffective.
I was gonna, you may not know the answer to this, but how much did the union prior to this prior to the strike begin to create that infrastructure, or to coordinate that infrastructure to care for kids who needed childcare, to care for kids who needed the services, lunch, and perhaps help maybe with various sort of like more urgent needs. How much did the union sort of like set all of those ducks up in a row? Because that's usually one of the first things we'll hear from the city is like the teachers are irresponsibly leaving the kids, at home, or are, making it harder on parents. How much did the union prepare for that stuff?
Right. We get a lot of, what about the kids? And we're saying, exactly, what about the kids? We've been fighting for them this whole time. And I think we've been credited as a union for being well prepared in getting ready to strike. You could see the writing on the wall. You could see that bargaining was making very little progress. They are not bargaining in good faith. And so we've been laying that structure this entire academic year based on support systems that were still lingering after the pandemic. And we have a push for a community school model in our area, really aware that schools are often the hub for families and children to get what they need. And we take that very seriously. And so those structures have been there somewhat all along and are activated early when it was clear we are careening towards a strike.
How long are you guys willing to stay out on the lines?
We're willing to be out here as long as it takes. I think they The district thinks that we will be scared off by the loss of health insurance. Our community has our backs. We are not worried about that. They think we will start to falter if we push towards the Thanksgiving holiday break. We will not falter. We are ready to be out here for a similar duration to you guys, SAG-AFTRA. We whatever it takes to get what we need and what we deserve and what our students deserve.
If someone's in Portland, what can they do to help you guys in this fight?
Yeah, we've got a strike support fund that is helping with some financial contributions, some of those support systems that we mentioned earlier, making sure kids are getting care and families have what they need. So going to pdxteachers.org, finding our strike fund, and there's a solidarity text chain that you can get in to keep updated. Finding the picket lines in your neighborhood. Anywhere there's a school, there's a picket line that starts our morning there. And bringing honks and bringing coffee and bringing love and support. Hand warmers. We had a delivery of hand warmers today that was very well received. And yeah, finding us out here. We have a rally today in Portland that we're hoping to have a lot of presence at over at our union office. We're going to be taking a bridge and showing up at someone's doorstep with a message.
Oh, great. And what time do you guys usually hit the picket lines? Is it is it through the school day or just the first half or what?
Yeah, we are doing some kind of union action through the entire school day. Our pickets are at our schools. We start at 7:45 getting ready. We're on the line by 8. And then we usually are starting to tear down right about 10:15, 10:30 to go have lunch, restore ourselves. You can tell a little bit we're losing our voices. We've been working hard. We're prioritizing care. And then we go back out by 11:30, 12 to an afternoon action of some kind, which have been incredibly moving rallies and marches and big Portland-wide actions. And it's like going to church. Some of these speeches, we've had the president of UTLA came out in solidarity and spoke to us, the president of NEA. It's really profound. And Kid March yesterday.
Great to hear it. Well, Brittany Dorris, 5th grade teacher in Portland, Oregon. Thanks so much for joining us. Good luck. And we'll put a link to that strike fund.
Thank you so much, Sam. Have a good day.
You too. All right, folks. Going to head into the fun half. I really had to check myself. You get access to a 5th grade teacher. You get a 5th grade kid. You're like, well, you want to ask all sorts of like, what's the bet? Where can I find resources to, I don't know, have my kid excel in math or something? But I mean, I asked my own teacher.
It's not quite appropriate to use your podcast for inside information on.
Is there any way you can inflate my kids' grades?
How do you get access to those scoring answer keys?
Exactly. All right. Well, we will we'll take a break and head into the fun half. We will talk more about these elections and obviously more about what's going on in Gaza. There was a really, a really interesting interview on CNN last night on Anderson Cooper of a nurse who works with Médecins Sans Frontières, or Doctors Without Borders, and pretty moving. It's also sort of like, well, there's a lot of thoughts I have about it in terms of who gets to say what on television.
Yeah.
But
and who gets to say what without having to condemn Hamas before they get to say it?
And also we have a similar story in Congress with Rashida Tlaib. I mean, some of the things that have been said in Congress, and both within the context of what has happened over the past 3 or 4 weeks, and completely outside of it, and the idea that Tlaib gets censured, I can completely understand why Republicans would do this. There were 22 Democrats who we will mention their names when we get to the other side, who voted to censure Tlaib. I would imagine a bunch of them were our APAC candidates, particularly Dan Goldman from these parts.
Yeah, I think everyone has
Pat
taken.
Ryan, really disappointing to me. From upstate, these are more purpley things. I mean, there's two types of districts as far as I'm looking at these things. There is you're either in like New York, and you have a very sort of like probably a strong support of Israel, like vehement and AIPAC money, or you're in sort of a purple district where they're still living in the sort of like era of, well, I don't know, other places aren't, but an era of like immediately suspect of a Palestinian. Also, we didn't pull it, but we should pull that Washington Post. There was an editorial cartoon that honestly, like, if you had put a different caption on it and said this was, 1937, make it into black and white, 1937 depiction of a Jew in the lead up to what was happening in Germany. It almost indistinguishable. And fascinating in some way.
Democracy dies in the darkness.
All right, but we will take a break. Just a reminder, it's your support that makes this show possible. If you want to become a member, and we hope you do, go to jointhemajority.report.com. Listen to the show a couple of times a week. Support the program if you can. If you can't, send us an email at majorityreporters@gmail.com. And we will make sure that you get set up. We do not exclude people for financial reasons. But if you do have the means, always could use your support to help this show survive and thrive. Join themajorityreport.com. Also, don't forget Just Coffee, fair trade coffee featuring the Majority Report blend. Yes, there are other blends that are great too. I'm not going to lie. I've tried many of them. I always come back to the Majority Report blend because how could I not? And a local coffee shop upstate. Just coincidentally, Majority Report blend is their house blend. But justcoffee.coop, use the coupon code majority, get 10% off. Emma on break. She'll be here tonight for our live coverage of the third Republican debate. Only 5 little mini Trumps will be on that stage. Chris Christie, Nikki Haley, Ron DeSanctimonious.
Well, Vivek is going to be the most interesting to watch because he is on the tightrope of proving that I want to kill the most Hamas members, but also want to be isolationist, and I want you to all credit me with that while I'm being a brown guy. And so it's going to be interesting to see how he navigates tonight. Tim Scott will be there. How many times do you think they're going to mention Rashida Tlaib in the debate? They just play it. They have a moment of silence to censure her.
We could play a drinking game. The debate will start at 8 p.m. We will start our coverage at 7:59, or maybe a little bit earlier, at our YouTube channel. Bradley, ESVN, what's the deal?
We broke down the NFL action from Sunday, as well as discussed the Jim Harbaugh University of Michigan sign stealing scandal, which has continued to complicate itself since we last recorded. And we will be back tomorrow for our picks, against the spread and Survivor picks. YouTube.com/ESPN show. We'll be back at 4 p.m. tomorrow.
Matt.
Last night on Left Reckoning, we talked about both Rashida Tlaib and also labor leaders in the UK being censured over the phrase "from the river to the sea." And also we talked with Spanish-Italian journalist Tiara Gatemora about both what's going on in Spain with regards to their left-wing parties, as well as cultural politics and the sort of European perspective on different feminism and that sort of stuff. So patreon.com/Left Reckoning to get access to that.
See you in the fun half. left is best. Jamie and I may have a disagreement.
Yeah, you can't just say whatever you want about people just because you're rich.
I have an absolute right to mock them on YouTube.
He's up there buggy whipping like he's the boss.
I am not your employer.
You know, I'm tired of the negativity.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to upset you. You're nervous? You're a little bit upset? You're riled up?
Yeah, maybe you should rethink your defense of that, you fucking idiots.
We're just going to get rid of you.
All right.
But dude, you want to smoke this joint?
Yes.
Do you feel like you are a dinosaur?
That's some good shit.
Exactly. I'm happy now.
It's a win-win.
It's a win-win-win.
Oh, hell yeah.
Now listen to me. 2, 3, 4, 5 times. 847-906-501457.